Hi, I'm Andrew.
I'm Alysse.
We met teaching at a really nice bilingual school in Honduras, and we worked there 3 years, and at the end decided we should get married. And so we wanted a place to kind of start fresh with just the two of us, and we also wanted to be somewhere where people weren't getting a chance to hear about Jesus, and we wanted to be part of bringing Jesus to people who hadn't heard. So we decided to move to China.
Why not?
And we ended up at a school with some contacts, and it was just a very difficult situation.
Yeah, it was really hard. First year of marriage, halfway across the world, don't speak the language, all these new things. And we didn't have a lot of community there. There were about 6 other people who spoke English and believed in God, but they were super discouraged in their walks as well. And so there wasn't anyone to really point us to the Word or point us to worship. We didn't have a local worship gathering to participate in, and so it made that season in life really hard. So it was like saying, okay, Lord, like this is what you say, so let's see it, because I have no idea how to be a wife, I have no idea how to be a teacher, I have no idea how to speak Chinese, and yet we have made this commitment for 10 months, and so how are we going to do this?
And we had two other English speakers who met with us every week to work through that Bible study. And that really became something that refocused us, that reminded us to rely on the Lord, to wait on the Lord in an active sort of way, like an active coming before the Lord and resting before Him.
We all prioritize that one night a week, and even just to see the difference in our hearts and attitudes. Not that our circumstances changed at all, because life was still really hard, but we were able to encourage one another and remind one another of truth.
And we definitely didn't get it perfect, but the Lord really carried us. And then we moved back to the States, and when you're overseas, you kind of have to rely on the Lord because so much is out of your control. And we came back to the States, and I slipped immediately back into trying to take control of things myself. And so we moved back, and I took a job outside of Atlanta, and it was also a rough situation. I had very little administrative support, very little departmental support. I was working with really rough kids. I was driving 2 hours a day, and I started falling apart all over again. I forgot everything that the Lord had taught me in China, and I just started losing my mind. I was sleep deprived and stressed out and felt like a failure, and I was relying on myself and not on the Lord. And it got so bad I thought that I was ruining Alysse's life, and I thought I had to leave to let her have a life and let her pursue the Lord. And so I had plans to run away to Bolivia. I'd picked out a town. I was off my rocker.
Yeah, it was a really scary time, actually, not having community, even though we were surrounded by people who could speak our language and churches on every block, but we hadn't got plugged in anywhere yet, and you didn't know what you'd walk home to find or not find. We did find a church and a small group, and were able to push into that, and that really ended up helping us stay or get back on track. And our small group there was able to stand by us for the next year and a half, walking and growing with us as we learned what it meant to love and abide in the Lord once again.
And so after about a year and a half of kind of having our heads on straight, or maybe about a year, we started looking for, okay, how can we go back to that original plan of bringing Jesus to people who aren't hearing about Him? I knew Pastor Tim from college, so I emailed Pastor Tim and said, hey, do you know of any opportunities? What do you think? And so we emailed back and forth a little bit, and eventually he was like, why don't you guys just move up here? And we wanted to move north anyway, so we said, let's look into that.
And then one of the things he sent us were some of the podcasts from sermons. I think it was about a year ago in January when you guys were doing the core value sermons, and we were halfway through the first one and we paused it, and I turned to Andrew and I was like, have you listened to this already? Because it's verbatim what you've been talking about for the last year and a half, and so this is probably definitely something that we should look into. So we came to visit.
And the visit went well, and we were excited to see so many signs of people trying to build their lives around evangelism and discipleship, and excited to see people who wanted to make their lives about Jesus and to show Jesus' love to other people. When we visited, we came here over the weekend. I had a job interview on Tuesday, On Wednesday, I was offered the job. I took it on Thursday. Friday, we got in touch with Andrew Trevino. He gave us a Skype tour of an apartment on Saturday. And on Monday, we signed the lease. So from Tuesday to Monday, we had a church, a job, and an apartment.
And it was right down the road from one of the 3 small groups that Tim had us visit when we came, and we're still connected and attending that small group actually. So we had also been talking about our family growing and expanding, and I had been really nervous about that because if we move, then we start over all over with community. And to have a baby in a whole new place was a little terrifying, and it's really exciting because we are expecting, and he already knew. And the community around us has completely overwhelmed me, at least, but just with support, even people not in our small group, but just the love, the encouragement. While it was scary at first back in Georgia to push into community and admit the ways we weren't perfect, the ways that we were really struggling, it ended up being one of the greater lessons I think that we've learned is that we can't do it on our own. We do need Jesus, but we also need people around us to remind us about Jesus and his love.
And we keep learning all the more how much we're a mess and how much all of our friends are a mess. But we're also so excited to be with people who want to get into the Word and who want to pray and who know how much Jesus has done for their life and who want to see that same power of Jesus in the lives of their unsaved friends. And that's really exciting to us. So we're very glad to be here.